Hey guys, it's your boy Matty P and welcome back to another video. Now today's video is different. It's not a hiking video, it's a support slash advice video. I really want to help people and influence them in a positive light because there's been strong changes in my life that have really helped me, that I've made. And I care about people who watch and subscribe to my channel. So I just want to talk about some things that I feel are really important. I wanted to make this video for a while, but I didn't get around to it, mainly because I was quite depressed. And I'll start off by talking about mental health and physical health. It's very important that you have good physical and mental health. A lot of people don't even take it into consideration. A lot of people don't even realize, they've got physical health problems. Some common ones are insomnia, obesity, there's anxiety and depression. Some people don't even realize they have it. So it's really key that you take care of yourself. Now, I'll start off by talking about mental health because this is quite a very broad and grey area. It all interrelates with each other and interrelates with physical health issues, and I have more to say about it. So, I'll get right to it. So, I'm not a professional, but as someone who suffers from depression with psychotic features or psychotic depression, as a patient who's had quite an experience of medications and stuff, I can give you advice based on my experience. So firstly, before I talk about therapy or medications, I suggest that you take strategies in your life to actually make things better, because it's not always about therapy and medications. So try and be more productive. If you get into something, it's going to distract you from whatever's bothering you. I've been doing maths and that. Hiking really helps take my mind off things. It's always good going for a nice walk. And yeah, now I'd also recommend talking to people, spending time with people. It's actually really healthy for you mentally. Now I'd also recommend try and avoid stuff like gambling, drinking, addictions. And try not to stress too much. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't super commit yourself or invest your time and stress into something, because it's just going to go downhill. Now, I'll move on to therapy. So therapy is also another line of things you could try before medications. I forgot to say before, you should set goals for yourself. Try and be confident. You are a warrior. You've been born into this world. It's always a constant fight. Feel good about yourself. You're probably a really nice person. Hell, and you don't even realize it. You don't realize how important you are to other people. So just remember that. It's just you don't even understand how important human life is, and that. Until a certain point, usually. Now, setting goals is really important as well, because once you achieve these goals, you're going to feel really good. Me personally, I set a goal to learn advanced maths. I'm already doing really well with it, thanks to a lot of hard work and effort. So yeah, set yourself some goals. Now, go back to therapy. So therapy can be really good for some people. It can be, for some types of stress and mental illness, it can be almost as effective, if not more effective, than medication. It all depends what you have, what you're suffering from. It doesn't have to be like a real diagnosis. Anxiety is a very common one, so is OCD. Often people aren't even diagnosed with it because it's just so common, and sometimes minor. I'm not saying it's not severe. I understand if you struggle with it. What I'm saying is it varies, like in severity. So there's different types of therapy you can try. There's hydrotherapy. There's acupuncture. There's actually talking to someone like a licensed therapist, or there's group therapy. That's actually a really good one for a lot of people who have Uh, could be financial, relationship problems, or addiction. There's a lot of addiction support groups. You can talk to an like a substance abuse counselor. You can see a psychologist. So give it a crack before you try medications, because it can be really effective. For some illnesses such as borderline personality disorder, it's actually recommended over medication, since medication isn't as effective for it. Now, I will talk about medications, since medications can be very effective, but they also come with the most side effects, and while it can be cheaper than therapy, you may underestimate how strong the side effects can be. And there's many different mental illnesses: anxiety, depression, OCD, schizophrenia, um, bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder. I'm trying to think of a couple of other ones. There's quite a lot. Now, there are many different medications, and some are just made to treat one illness. They can treat several different illnesses. So we'll start off the most. And sorry, before I say anything else, I'll just say again, you should really, really talk to a licensed professional, such as a psychiatrist. You can see one for free if you're struggling. You can go to the hospital. Before I say anything else, I'll also say, if you're considering hurting yourself, please don't do it. Talk to me, or call an ambulance or Lifeline. Trust me, it's worth it. I don't understand how big of a mistake you're going to make if you do anything to yourself. It's just very, very, very bad idea. And yeah, and you'll look back on it and you'll say, oh my God, why did I even think about doing that? Now, back to what I was saying before, you should talk to a professional, such as a doctor, and you should never play around with drugs, like combine them, mix them with other drugs like alcohol, or play with a dose. That can have very serious effects. Now, I'll start off by talking about some of the medications that there are, and I've been on a fair amount, so I can say from experience what they're like. I'll start off with antidepressants. So there are 4 classes of antidepressants. First two are the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors and selective norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, the SSRIs. Examples include Effexor, duloxetine. Effexor just means venlafaxine. There's, I think, Brintellix is a SNRI. They're generally taken after SSRI, such as fluoxetine or Prozac. Paxil, it's paroxetine. Sertraline, Zoloft, that's another one. Now, they're quite effective for treating social anxiety. They can treat depression as well, but some of the other regimens I'm about to mention can be considered more effective. There's tricyclics. They're very effective for OCD, pain, depression as well. ADHD, they can be quite effective in treating as well. Now, the last class of drugs, and probably the riskiest, are the MAOIs, or monoamine oxidase inhibitors. So they're the gold standard for treating depression. They've been used for a long time. Their use is declining because of safer drugs. There's a lot of dietary restrictions to them. You can't eat a lot of foods, because if you do, you can suffer from really high blood pressure, and that can be fatal. But if the other medications aren't working for you, then they're a good way to go. Now, I've been on the first 3. I can say SSRIs had less side effects. Tricyclics can have quite a few physical side effects. SNRIs, I guess, don't have as many side effects, but tricyclics and MAOIs can definitely have quite a lot of side effects. Now I'll move on to anxiolytics. So you have the SNRIs and tricyclic antidepressants. They're usually considered a first-line treatment for... Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention. There's another class of antidepressants called the atypical antidepressants. They can also be very effective, such as there are regimens such as mirtazapine, valdoxan, bupropion or Wellbutrin. They're designed to have less side effects than the other ones, and they're probably roughly as effective as SNRIs and tricyclic antidepressants, so they're also a really good way to go. And they're also considered anxiolytics as well. They're probably a second-line treatment as well if the first ones don't work for you, along with tricyclics. Now, the second class of drugs the second or third class of drugs, if the other ones don't work for you, are gabapentinoids and GABAergic drugs such as I'm just trying to think of a couple. Pregabalin or Lyrica, as its brand name is called, gabapentin. And I've personally been on the pregabalin, and it was effective. Same with the first two I mentioned. They can be quite good for social anxiety. And then the last class of drugs is the benzodiazepines. Barbiturates have fallen out of favour these days, so I mentioned them. The benzodiazepines can be extremely effective, mainly for panic attacks and such. I've also been on this drug called lorazepam. I don't take it anymore because I felt it was making me quite sleepy. I didn't like that side effect. It was making me sleepy in the day, whereas the other drug I'm taking, it only makes you sleepy at night. So I've been on all three. I can say none's really effective than the other. Each is more effective in what class of anxiety it's treating. This the SSRIs and SNRIs are probably the best for social anxiety. For general anxiety disorder, the gabapentinoids are quite effective. For panic disorder, the benzodiazepines are quite effective. However, they can make you really sleepy. There is also the risk of dependence, again, cognitive decline, and you can get muscle weakness from them as well, because they are quite they're considered muscle relaxants as well. But all three of them you give them a crack. I mean, they're effective, they work. And now the next class of drugs I'll mention are the mood stabilizers. So there are quite a few of them. There's lamotrigine, there's lithium, there's Depakote. Some of the antipsychotics also function as mood stabilizers. Drugs such as chlorpromazine or Thorazine, Largactil, are some brand names. Because I mentioned brand names because you might have heard of them before. You probably haven't heard of the scientific name. Quetiapine and aripiprazole are considered effective mood stabilizers. But they have more side effects, so I'd stick to the other ones I mentioned. Lithium as well can have side effects, mainly renal, so I recommend lamotrigine or Depakote. I'm personally on lamotrigine for depression. I found it was effective when the antidepressants weren't working, and I didn't want to go on an MAOI. And they work. And yeah, those are a couple. Lithium's traditionally been considered the gold standard, but I'd honestly say lamotrigine's probably just as effective. Our last class of drugs I'll mention are the antipsychotics. Now, this is probably the most controversial class of drugs because of their numerous side effects and their strength as well. So there are three types of antipsychotics. The first class is the typical antipsychotics. Now, they've fallen out of favour quite a bit, but they're still commonly used. You'll probably be tried on them before you've tried on other medications. There are drugs such as chlorpromazine, or Largactil, or Thorazine. Some brand names: chlorpromazine, aka Truxal. There is Firazidine. I think there's another one called Ferrofixine. Loxapine, haloperidol, Haldol, fluphenazine, flupentixol, zaclopentixol, and prochlorperazine. They vary in potency. They mainly act on your what's it called? Sorry, dopamine receptors. So they're better for schizophrenia and psychotic illnesses, but even if you just have psychotic features, they can be really effective too, just as mood stabilizers are effective for bipolar disorder. They're generally considered the main treatment for bipolar disorder. You don't really want to be on antipsychotics for it. You only want to be on them if you need them. Now, the typicals, their main side effects are movement related. So, from being on one of them, I guess you could consider amisulpride a typical as well, and aripiprazole. They're technically classed as atypicals, but they have more affinity for the dopamine receptors, so I'd really just say they're kind of typicals as well. I wouldn't say they're more likely than the atypicals, which I've also been on, to cause akathisia and dystonia, but they are much more likely to cause Parkinsonian side effects and tardive dyskinesia. I noticed when I was on amisulpride or prochlorperazine, I get jerks and twitching quite a lot, which it's unpleasant, or at least undesired. You don't want it. Now, there's also the atypical antidepressants, and such as risperidone, olanzapine, quetiapine, what else? Lurasidone, acenapine. There's quite a couple. Ziprasidone, and they're all quite effective. They're actually usually considered more effective than the more traditional antipsychotics, than the typicals, because they not only do they improve positive symptoms, they also improve what's called the negative symptoms, which is more like anhedonia, social isolation, apathy. Now, their main side effects are sedation and weight gain, but some of them, such as lurasidone, I was on that once. Oh god, it was horrible. That was probably the worst pain I'd experienced in my life. The restlessness and the jerking was just terrible, honestly. And that was the only time I could ever say I really felt like truly scared. I didn't know what was going to happen. That was literally the only time I've ever felt pure fear. I felt as if I was being poisoned. It was horrible. Now, some drugs such as haloperidol and flufenazine can produce similar symptoms, but they're more likely to produce Parkinsonian side effects, I'd say, and they can cause akathisia. The lower potency typicals are more likely to produce sedation, dry mouth, weakness. So I personally recommend the atypicals. Olanzapine is quite an effective one. Of course, it's notorious for causing weight gain. You won't get that much weight, and even then, weight gain's a lot better than having those movement-related side effects. Now, sorry, I'll just check how much battery I've got left on my phone. Oh yeah, I can keep filming for a while. Now, I would honestly recommend a lot more than the typicals. Quetiapine is also quite a side effect neutral one, mainly sedation and weight gain. And yeah, I recommend them over the typicals, but typicals some people find they prefer the typicals over the atypicals. Now then, and this is really quite a strong one. It's by far the strongest antipsychotic there is. I've never been on it, so I can't comment. It's not used very often. They try on every single drug before they put you on it, but I know people have been on it. It's used when the other ones are either ineffective or they're not working as desired. Their effect may only be partial, or they're producing intolerable side effects. And this one, you actually have to get weekly blood tests for. It's called clozapine. Now, clozapine is the gold standard treatment for schizophrenia. It's by far the strongest medication, but not only can you get constipation, sedation, bedwetting, drooling from it, there's actually a 1% risk of getting a life-threateningly low amount of white blood cells. So basically, you can get what's called neutropenia, which can progress to agranulocytosis. That's cytopenia. And that can be quite risky, and the risk is quite high, 1%, as I said. so they will monitor you on it. I would personally recommend it. I can't even really recommend it because the chances are if you've been put on it, you've probably been put on it involuntarily. And I'm not trying to be rude. It's just it is by far the strongest antipsychotic. Because I can say from experience being on olanzapine, which is chemically related, and well, clozapine is a fair bit stronger. Olanzapine is probably the second strongest antipsychotic. And olanzapine doesn't require that; it only requires a prescription. You don't need to get the blood test. You don't need to worry about it. Been on it's very side effect neutral. So olanzapine and clozapine are probably the best ones to go for, but they'll probably a psychiatrist might try you on other ones, such as quetiapine or risperidone, before they put you on those because of the very severe risk of weight gain. So you will most likely put on weight, which you will probably on clozapine as well. But clozapine is basically the nuclear option. And now that I've gotten that out of the way, I might as well talk about physical health. I think it's really important to have a good diet and exercise. Because that kind of relays back you have good health, and it can improve some physical health issues. I recommend you get the required amount of sleep. I can say from experience, when I was, sorry, I keep forgetting to say things. There are the ADHD drugs as well. So the tricyclic antidepressants and atomoxetine or Strattera are some examples. The amphetamines such as Adderall, Vyvanse, and then there's Ritalin, methylphenidate. They're all effective, but again, they come with side effects. Now, what I was going to mention was insomnia. I used to have that while I was on Vyvanse. Since getting off of it, I found my cognitive effects, the cognitive effects have improved. My concentration is actually, ironically, much better than it was on Vyvanse because I was finding it really hard to sleep and only getting like 2-3 hours of sleep a night. Now, so it's really important to get good sleep. Now, I avoid smoking, drinking, drug addictions. Now, I'm not going to judge you if you do it. We all have vices, and hey, that's better than some other vices or addictions, but it's still not good. It can have quite an effect on your physical health. Some drugs and smoking can really badly affect you. I'd honestly say meth has been more of an epidemic than COVID, and I'm not going to take credit for that because someone else said that. I just think what they said was a really good way to put it. And so, yeah, I would say avoid that. It's not good. I've smoked and drunk before. I don't do it anymore. I didn't really like it, and yeah, I might have a few beers occasionally. I only smoked probably a few times. I don't smoke anymore because the more you do it, the more likely you're going to become dependent on it. I haven't smoked in a really long time, actually. And smoking is one of those ones that can actually truly physically harm you over a long period of time. There's risks. It's not just lung cancer, it's more like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease as well. That can be really bad for you. You get like smoker's cough. It's not pleasant. And it's not just lung cancer. You can get other kinds of cancer. You can get a lot of different cancers from smoking: throat cancer, kidney cancer, esophageal cancer, liver cancer. And remember, cancer can metastasize. Cancer can be as serious, and some types of cancer are highly treatable. Others, I don't want to call them a death sentence, but they're bad. They're not good. It's like with a heart attack. It's treatable, but it's bad. Now, I might as well also mention chronic pain, since I've suffered from that for a while, and it really affected my ability to go hiking and exercise and enjoy myself, and it's just horrible being in constant pain all the time. There are many different types of drugs for treating pain, but I'd also recommend exercising and physiotherapy. I've found since beginning exercising and trying medication, that has really helped me, and I'd personally recommend that before you try medications. I'd really recommend you try Panadol and Nurofen and aspirin as well, because they are all very effective painkillers with a low risk of side effects. And they can be quite good for controlling other effects of pain related illnesses and chronic pain. If those aren't working, then comes the heavy duty stuff. So you have probably about 4 classes. You have drugs for, you have muscle relaxants, anti-inflammatories, nerve agents, and opioids. Now, I can't really say any one is more effective than the other. It all depends on your pain. Say you have muscle pain, or Phenadrine or Valium is probably going to be better for you. If you have inflammation-related pain, an immunosuppressant or Celebrex is going to be quite good. Panadol and Nurofen again. I recommend Panadol, Nurofen, and aspirin before you try any of the other stuff. There's other ones such as duloxetine or tryptolamine, even olanzapine. Oh, I found olanzapine helped my pain a bunch. I mean, it helped a lot. That would be better for nerve pain, and opioids such as codeine or morphine can be quite effective for cancer pain. There are other treatments like radiotherapy and that, but they're generally considered good for cancer pain, particularly some of the stronger opioids. But remember, all of these heavier duty drugs I'm of a class of side effects. I've been on all of them. I can say, like, muscle relaxants cause horrible dry mouth, horrible, it's called anticholinergic effects and stuff. The anti-inflammatories cause really bad heartburn and reflux, and they can pack a punch all right on your liver and kidneys, and give you stomach ulcers too. That ain't great. There's a very low risk of Panadol, Nurofen, aspirin, mainly aspirin, but the other two are fine. The nerve agents can cause quite a lot of physical side effects, such as headaches, nausea. They can also make you really sleepy, and the side effect profile is probably similar for opioids. They can make you sleepy, they can make you nauseous and sick, but the main side effects of opioids is constipation. That's the one where you'll actually, if you're on opioids, you'll say, hey, I'm constipated. It's just like if you're on muscle relaxants, you'll probably be like, oh, I got a horrible dry mouth. Anti-inflammatories, you'd be like, oh, that heartburn. It's not good. So I'd really just recommend you try Panadol or something. You'd be surprised at how effective it is. Before, I had to try all the other drugs, literally all 4 classes. I found Panadol was quite effective at first, especially the Panadol Optazol tablets that kick in quicker, rapid relief. And yeah, now obviously you might be thinking, oh, that's not as effective as some of the other ones, but well, yes, it's not as effective as them. It can still be a very good painkiller. It's easy to get. It's over the counter. It's not addictive, because some people will get addicted to muscle relaxants. Some people get addicted to opioids. Just like the same people get addicted to smoking, except there is a lower risk, of course, than smoking or some of the other more common street drugs. Now, I can't really comment on anything else. I can only comment on chronic pain since I suffer from it. It is debilitating, and it's one that's, I guess, not recognized as much, and it's unfortunate, especially because the medications can have some really nasty side effects, just like with antipsychotics. And yeah, so I guess that's all I have to say about physical health or related issues. I've said a fair bit about mental health. I might as well mention, you should really take up some hobbies. Do something productive. I'm not saying you have to do this, but for example, I've taken up a hobby of maths. I got a grade of 90% in pre-calculus, and I'm currently on 78% in calculus. I'm using Khan Academy, which is really good. But it just takes effort, you know. After putting in all that effort, I thought, wow, I'm really enjoying this. It's really interesting, and I'm doing really well. And maths is so useful. You have no idea, honestly. But for other people, you could take up a hobby such as surfing, computer programming, video games, and don't listen to what people say. Video games do not cause violence. A lot of other shit causes violence, addictions. Um, Although I'm not going to stigmatize addictions as much, um, but alcoholism and that could cause it. Family-related issues, conflict. It can be over anything. Territory, religion, and such. It's not good. Video games and bullying as well. Bullying is quite a big one. Video games do not cause violence. They're only a problem when you start becoming addicted to them. It consumes all of your time. I can say I almost got addicted to those those games where you like build your own city and that. They're kind of like Farmville, except they're a bit different. But yeah, I really recommend you take up a hobby. It'll start to consume your time and you'll be less bored. You'll be much less bored. And you know, I've already finished the Breaking Bad series. I'm nearly finished with Better Call Saul, and I've watched the Breaking Bad movie, El Camino. I really enjoyed all three of them. And yeah, I'm gonna start Narcos once I've finished that. And I've already seen Scarface, Requiem for a Dream, the two Trainspotting films. Yeah, I haven't seen some of the other ones, like the other cartel films or Narcos. I might have seen a bit of Narcos, but not like the whole trilogy. Just as I haven't seen all of Better Call Saul, I've seen some of it. So I've seen some of Narcos, but yeah. So I really recommend taking up a hobby. I also recommend you get fit. It's really good to be fit. I can't really say so much because I'm quite overweight, but yeah, I'd really recommend you do those two things. Make sure you got a license. Hiking is also a really good hobby to get done hiking, and it's amazing. And you can, when you're hiking, you can do stuff like fishing, hunting, sandboarding, skiing, all sorts of stuff, and you can just see all sorts of cool wildlife and rocks. It's awesome, you know. It's crazy. You can swim as well. You can swim. I personally wouldn't recommend you swim in lakes as much. They can be dangerous. I think you can drown in the mud, and rivers as well. There's bull sharks. Rivers and oceans are a bit safer, but also the risk of diseases in lakes. Shockers with them. You know, I wouldn't go swimming in Lake Monga. Damn, man, that's nasty. That is a nasty ass lake. Yeah, I could tell you all about hiking, but I'd rather make videos on that and really go into depth on them. Now let's check how much battery I've got. 21%, yeah, should have enough battery. Now, you should also, I'm just trying to think of some advice I can give you. I'd recommend getting a license as well. I've been doing driving lessons lately, and it's really good to get your license, and it gives you a lot more freedom. I recommend get a job. I didn't get a job because I was in quite a period of very severe depression after I finished high school. It wasn't because I wasn't in high school, just for other reasons. Mainly the fact that I had a depressive disorder with the psychotic features. That's different from like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. You're just depressed and you're not fully psychotic, but you have psychotic features or psychotic episodes. They're not like full blown. Getting a job can be really good. You can work all sorts of jobs, learn so much different stuff. I've worked a few jobs, and I'm not working currently. That's why I've been really putting in for a lot of jobs lately. I already had a few interviews, and well, not a few. I'd be lying if I said that I only had one interview, but yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. You put in for like 10 jobs, you know, at least get one interview out of all of them. I've been to job interviews before, and I can just recommend. I don't actually recommend you prep for a job interview. I recommend, depends what sort of job. If it's a really high-end job, yeah, you probably should prep. But if it's just a job at Macca's, just, you know, try your hardest, you know, and I just really try and click, like slip in, go with, try and, it's hard to say, it's got to kind of wing it. Sometimes prepping can be better for some people. Now, what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, try your hardest. You get to meet new people, you get to work out, you get to make people happy. A lot of people will be like, a lot of people can say, oh, you work at Macca's, or, you work in an office, but you work in an office, that's pretty chill. You're not busting your back out on a construction site or something. And you learn how to use a lot of computer software. You work at Macca's, you're making good food, man, good tucker, you're making people happy. You can learn a lot. Again, I probably keep repeating myself, but meet new people, and you make money. Money, like Mr. Krabs, me money. And once you start saving up, it really pays off. I remember it just felt so good working, and I had to work hard for some of the jobs I worked before. Oh man, when you make that money, when you make that paycheck, it feels good, man. It feels good. Now, sorry, I don't want to keep pausing. There's a lot to think about and a lot to say. I'd recommend you get a computer. Get a computer if you haven't got one. You probably have, but you probably use a phone or an iPad. Mostly computers can be real fun. You have no idea how useful and important they are, especially if you're working in that. But they can be a lot of fun. I've got some computer games, video games. I use computers for a lot of different things, like maths, and drawing sometimes, like draw with a paintboard. Though you can get stuff like Photoshop, AutoCAD, that's good as well. Now, last thing I should mention is probably, I don't want to get too into it because it's one of those topics that can cause a lot of, you got to be careful when talking about politics, but I might mention a bit of it. I can't really say all the inner mechanics of it, but I can say it's changing a lot these days. Oh, and I might as well mention, things are getting a lot better. This is why if you're depressed, you gotta look up to the bright side, man. Technology is insane. Imagine video games in the next 10. Imagine just technology in general in the next 10 years. Computers, it is insane. And the economy is getting better. There's more jobs. This is what I say. This is why I'm looking forward to getting a job. It's good. You feel good. That when you feel like honest days work, honest days pay. It's not just about the money, but you know what I mean. Like a good day of hard work feels good. The other day I just cleared out 10 kilos of rubbish from the park. You'd be surprised how much rubbish is in those. Another thing, volunteer, like be part of the community, do something. Doesn't matter whether you're working at the soup kitchen or cleaning up the park. It's good, man. You got to do something. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying, if you're bored and if you feel like contributing, something to look at. Now back to what I was saying. Politics. I don't like to get into it too much because it's not really my thing. But just because of what's going on, I recommend staying out of it. I'd honestly recommend, trying to live a healthy lifestyle as well, like what I was saying before about other things, like mental health and that. And I'd recommend you don't want to get too sucked into things, I like researching a bit of politics sometimes, but I don't let it consume my life. And there's lots of different good places to look, like 8chan. You can just do some research and analysis. What I would say is, though, from the looks of it, the world's getting better in some ways, but it's getting a bit crazy as well. I'd personally recommend, I'd recommend being careful and not getting too sucked in it. Traps. Like, don't don't become a doomer. I can say from being a bit of a doomer when I was depressed, it's horrible. You don't want to go there. You don't want to be black pilled. You want to be red pilled and iron pilled. It's getting a bit crazy. You know, it's crazy how much of a nanny state the state is becoming. Uh, like, you know, everyone says Australia is a nanny state. That's not true. But WA, we just made gel blasters illegal. It's illegal to what's it called? Apparently, they just made it illegal to protest outside abortion clinics. You need a license for everything. It's just crazy. Now, I can understand if it was guns. You want some regulation. Guns should not be banned out, or it's not altogether. It's not solving the problem. Not solving the problem. But they should be regulated. You know, you don't want to fall in the wrong hands. You know, like, I have to admit, although I'm pro-gun rights, mass shootings are a problem, and therefore guns need to be regulated. But you should definitely be allowed to get one through getting a license. You know, there's still, you know, people use them for hunting, for sport, like a clay shooting. You can get them, use them at a shooting range. But gel blood and even BB guns, I guess, since you know paintball guns, you got to make sure. I don't know about paintball guns, but I think BB guns, you don't want to hit someone in the eye with that. Now, but gel blasters, man, that's crazy. That's not on. And protesting outside an abortion clinic. I mean, look, I don't have much to say about that topic. It's really a hard one to answer about, you know. I'm not going to get into it. But you should have the right to have freedom of speech. It's not like, you know, you're... And it's funny, some of these people, you know, who say... It doesn't matter if you're left or right. There's a lot of people who get really aggressive and terrorize other people. Groups such as Antifa. There might be some right-wing groups as well. There's probably a bit less because the protest of the George Floyd, that was crazy. I remember seeing it on the news and there was like a guy whose bar got burned down. And I was like, holy shit. You know, and you could see as a firefighter, he invested a lot of savings in his bar, and, you know, he was crying. It was horrible. And I felt bad for him. I was shocked to see what was on the news. Now, I hope I'm not going off on a bit of a tangent. My point is, it's getting a bit out of hand. Now, if it gets bad, I personally recommend you have a car, you know, a bit of wilderness survival skills. I'm not saying the end's coming, but you just look at how crazy it's getting. You know, I personally am a bit worried. Stuff like Agenda 21 and that as well. I mean, I think realistically, the world's not going to end, but it's getting a bit worrying as well. I'd also recommend kind of stay low in that, stay safe. It's not only just politics, but the economy as well. Like, look at Venezuela. It used to be an awesome country. And that, sorry, not used to be an awesome country. I mean, it's an awesome country. It used to be I think it was like the wealthiest country in Latin America. And then it became the poorest. And now it's getting a bit better. It's probably, you know, it's getting a lot better. You know, it's crazy because I really want to travel to Venezuela. It looks so awesome, you know. But I don't blame the politicians, therefore. You can't necessarily blame them alone. It's a combination of factors that led to it. You know, I know a bit of US and Venezuela history, my Australian history as well. I know a bit of that. WA history. You notice if you go to like local monuments or like the Fremantle prison, you can learn quite a lot. Perth Mint as well. It's another one. I think the Belt. Or is it a new one? That might be a new one. There's the Yagan statue of Risson Island. You probably didn't know about that. But yeah, my point is stay low, stay safe. It's getting a bit crazy, you know, just be prepared, you know. It was like with things do get bad because there's been like panic buying, for example. Keep some stocks, don't overbuy, but stock up, I can say, for when panic buying will happen again. Because it will, you know, people like, it's going to happen, you know, and I get people are scared and that, but it's not on. You want to make sure have some supplies. I recommend living rural because you can get a better lifestyle from that. And it can be really peaceful now. I personally want to live a bit off the grid, like maybe in a small town, you know, in a few years' time. And yeah, so basically, don't look at it being all doom, but be careful. It's like everything is really convoluted. It's just so convoluted. All I can say is be prepared. Panic buying's going to start again. It's going to become. There's going to be more crackdowns on things, and it's getting a bit out of control. It's, in my opinion, it's really silly altogether. But what do you expect? What do you expect? What can you do? You can only prepare. I recommend having a car, a decent place to live, maybe away from the cities, and stocking up as well. It's not the end of the world if you can't, but still, I'd recommend it. I'd recommend living in a nicer suburb as well. It's not as populated away from the cities. I really like it here at Kinross. We have a nice little corner store and some really nice parks as well. Yeah. Well, I guess that's all I can say, guys. I better wrap it up here. I hope you really enjoyed my video. I tried my hardest to make a good video so that I can help people and inform people. I really recommend using Khan Academy, by the way. You can learn a lot of stuff. It's a good add-on for physics, chemistry, biology, history, electrical engineering, English courses, but you can learn maths just doing Khan Academy. Well, I really recommend you use it now. Again, I hope you enjoyed my video. I hope it helped you. Stay safe, and I'll see you later, guys.